A lot of thought to what does it mean to keep the mission of the Sisters of St. Joseph alive. And I think probably for me, it's the ability to be open and to see how God is revealing God's self, and how am I experiencing God in the day-to-day. And when I can have that experience, I think my life looks different. I think there's a peace and a joy that emanates from me, and I hope it's authentic. And I think the authenticity is something that people question and begin to be a little bit curious about, and it allows a moment when that, going back to that notion about relationships, the naming of what's going on in my life, why I feel alive and why I feel joyful, helps another person to be able to reveal some of the joy and the peace that they experience in their life. So I think, again, it goes back to that give and take. The mission alive is the Spirit of God alive in me, and allowing the Spirit of God to come alive in another person. That's pretty tricky right now. It's a difficult question because there's a lot of gray around. And one of the things that I often say to my coworkers is that in the midst of the grayness and in the midst of the divisiveness and the feeling of despair that people are experiencing, what I keep saying to myself, and therefore I end up saying to other people, is where do I see a glimmer of hope? Where do I see the light of Christ shining? It may be something really, really small. It may be as simple as a couple of weeks ago I was in a meeting and some comment that I made caused other people at the table to begin to speak about the hope that they have for people to come to appreciate the faith that exists in their parish, and to hope that the people would come to grow deeper in their own relationship with Christ. And it was like, that was such a light of hope for me. And so it's little moments like that that give me hope. It's this past week to hear the fact that the bishops would speak about that horrible bill that just was put out there. It's paying attention to where there is a sign of hope. And that sign of hope for me is the light of Christ. The quote that I feel as though I live by, there's two actually. One is a congregation maxim 84, which everybody loves. Quietly await the movement of grace, and when it comes, move with courage, with gentleness, humility, and courage. I didn't quote it correctly, but the most important words are, when the grace comes, move with courage. I shorten it to say, don't run ahead of grace. And that's been a really important thing for me to be able to live by, to know when the right moment is, and to be able to, once I recognize the moment of God's grace in my life, to be able to respond to it. A scripture passage that comes to me is the moment in the visitation when Elizabeth says to Mary, "Blessed is she who believed that what God said would be fulfilled." So it's a matter for me of being able to trust in God, that what God is saying, God will fulfill. And that even though I may feel incapable or not up to it, or as strong as I think I need to be to do something, if I can believe that God's there with me, that makes all the difference.